Philadelphia news, team of my heart. The Philadelphia 76ers were on the brink of signing another six-time All-Star in free agency, someone who would have transformed the entire team. Imagine what could have happened if this star had joined Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Philly would look a lot different right now. In this Sixers news breakdown, I'll reveal how close we were to seeing a new Big Three in Philly and why the Sixers ultimately made the right choice. Curious who that All-Star is? Stick around for the full story. Sixers fans, you deserve a championship. That means making tough decisions, and this one could change everything. Hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on more insider Sixers news and all the action as we gear up for the new season. Trust me, you'll want to be here for every update. You probably think the Sixers already pulled off the ultimate coup in free agency. And yes, landing a six-time All-Star and forming a new Big Three puts Philly on a collision course with destiny. But here's what you might not know, things could have been very different. Imagine this, a second six-time All-Star nearly made his way to the city of brotherly love. You can almost picture it, right? The headlines. The jerseys. The instant impact on a roster that is so close, to breaking the 41-year title drought. But here's where things take a twist, where Sixers news turns into Sixers rumors that will leave you asking, what if? This player didn't just think about signing with Philly. No, he pinpointed it. Philly was one of the top spots he had his eye on during free agency. You see, the Sixers were already in a tight race for signatures. We're talking about big names, bigger talents, and even bigger stakes. And while Paul George ended up being the crown jewel, this other All-Star? He wasn't just a footnote. He was ready to call Philly home. He was ready to join Joel Embiid and Maxey in building something unforgettable. What's crazy? If the Sixers had gone a different route, we wouldn't even be talking about Paul George in Sixers news right now. There wouldn't be a new Big Three featuring the perfect combination of scoring, defense, and leadership. No, this other All-Star was ready to put his own mark on the city until fate took him west. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? One decision. One signature. And the course of Sixers history changes forever. But you and I know the story isn't about what almost happened. It's about what did happen and what happens next. The Sixers are walking into the 2024-25 season with the kind of swagger they haven't had in years. Because this time, it's not about potential or promises. It's about results. Paul George? He fits like a glove, his defense, his ability to create offense, and his leadership in high-pressure situations. He's the kind of player that takes a team from good to great, from playoff hopeful to championship contender. And yet, there's that lingering feeling. That what if? What if that second All-Star had chosen differently? What would the lineup look like? Would the chemistry still be there? Would the Sixers be just as dangerous with him as they are with George? You've got to wonder, don't you? But let's be honest, you and I both know George was the better fit. The Sixers didn't just need scoring, they needed someone who could lock down the perimeter, someone who could take the defensive pressure off Embiid, someone who wouldn't just complement Maxey, but push him to the next level. George brings all that and more. But that's not to say this mystery All-Star wouldn't have had an impact. He would have given us a different kind of team, a different kind of excitement. He's the kind of player who can dominate in isolation, who knows how to take over games when the ball's in his hands. A player who commands respect. But, at the end of the day, it wasn't meant to be. Instead, he's out west now, teaming up with a couple of All-Stars over there, trying to make his own run at glory. But it's almost impossible not to imagine what could have been. This other All-Star, if he had signed, would have reshaped the Sixers' offensive flow completely. His mid-range game? Deadly. He's built his career on getting to his spots, breaking down defenses with footwork and precision. The guy is an absolute machine when it comes to creating his own shot. You've seen it, those moments where the defense knows exactly what he's going to do but can't stop it anyway. The thought of him in a Sixers uniform is enough to make you pause, isn't it? Philly fans would have loved it. He's a fan favorite wherever he goes. The kind of player that draws you in with his relentless effort and undeniable skill. There's no glitz or glamour, just pure grit. That's what Philly's all about, isn't it? You and I know the city appreciates that kind of player, someone who shows up, night in and night out, ready to work. And while you and I both can admit that Paul George fits more seamlessly into the current Sixers system, this guy would have brought something else entirely. He's a natural scorer, someone who could take over games on his own, which would have lifted some of that weight off Embiid's shoulders. Imagine the nights where Embiid is facing constant double teams. Instead of kicking it out to a spot-up shooter or waiting for Maxey to create, you've got someone who can instantly go one-on-one and find his own bucket. It would have given the Sixers another layer, another weapon in their already stacked arsenal. But here's the thing, you can't have it all. That's the harsh truth of building a championship roster. The Sixers couldn't sign both, and while it might sting to think about what could have been, you've got to look at the bigger picture. This is about fit. It's about what takes the team from good enough to finally there. You and I both know the Sixers need more than just another scorer, they need someone who plays both ends, someone who elevates the whole team's defense. That's where Paul George shines. His ability to guard the best perimeter players night after night changes everything. It's not just about his scoring, it's about his presence. When he's on the floor, the entire team steps up. That's what the Sixers need. And yet, it's still hard not to wonder about what this other all-star would have brought. Philly thrives on hard work, and this guy would have embodied that spirit. He doesn't shy away from contact. He fights through it, works harder, pushes further. That's what makes him special. His game might not be flashy, but it's built on a foundation of determination, something Philly fans respect more than anything. You and I both know this city isn't about finesse, it's about heart, it's about the grind. And this all-star? He's got plenty of both. There would have been nights where he took over, where he became the focal point of the offense. Nights where Embiid didn't need to be the hero. Nights where you would have seen him hit clutch shots and carry the Sixers through tough stretches. But, for all his individual brilliance, the question remains, would he have fit as seamlessly into the team's identity as George? The Sixers need a player who can not only score but also defend at the highest level. Someone who can complement Embiid's dominance in the paint and Maxey's speed on the perimeter. George fits that bill perfectly. This other all-star? He's a scorer first, someone who thrives in isolation, but maybe that's not what the Sixers needed most. Maybe, just maybe, George's two-way ability makes him the better fit for this team's championship aspirations. But here's the question you've probably been thinking about, did you already guess who this player is? The one who almost joined forces with Embiid and Maxey, who could have been part of a different Sixers Big Three. Maybe you've put it together by now, or maybe this name just slipped under your radar. Either way, you know the Sixers were on the verge of a significant shift, one that could have sent the franchise in a completely different direction. How would you have felt if the Sixers had gone this route? Would you have been excited? Or maybe a little cautious, thinking about how it would impact the current chemistry? It's hard to deny how intriguing it would have been. He's the kind of player who changes the game with his smooth, deliberate style, forcing defenders to work just to stay in front of him. And when you think about it, he's been an all-star 6 times for a reason. His offensive skills alone would have been enough to get you thinking about a deep playoff run. But then, where does that leave the defense? That's what I keep coming back to, and I'm sure you've been wondering the same thing. We've seen time and time again that defense wins championships, and that's where the Sixers really needed help. So while the thought of him dominating on offense is tempting, you've got to ask yourself, is that enough? Would his scoring alone have carried the Sixers to the finals? Philly doesn't need another half measure, another good but not great addition. This city deserves more. You've been waiting for a title for too long, haven't you? And if the Sixers are finally going to break through, they need to be more than just talented, they need to be complete. You want a team that not only gets buckets, but locks down the opposition. You want a player who can do it all, not just on one side of the floor. And that's why, in the end, they made the right call. Because as good as this other all-star is, Paul George is the one who makes Philly a true contender. His defense, his leadership, his ability to elevate the players around him, that's what the Sixers needed. You can't put a price on that, can you? But let's settle it. The player we've been talking about, the one who nearly signed with the Sixers, was none other than DeMar DeRozan. That's right, DeRozan was this close to coming to Philly, to joining Embiid and Maxey in what would have been a dynamic offensive trio. And while it didn't happen, you've got to respect the Sixers' decision. DeRozan would have been exciting, no doubt. His ability to take over a game with his mid-range mastery is undeniable. But was he the missing piece for a championship run? That's where the question lies. So, now that you know, how do you feel about it? Do you think the Sixers made the right move in choosing George over DeRozan? Would DeRozan have been the answer, or was George the better fit for this squad? Let me know what you think in the comments, and while you're at it, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any more Sixers news. Because the season's just heating up, and there's a lot more to come.